Hello lords and ladies, hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to have a look at the capabilities of the Imperial troop tree, which consists of 27 units stretched across their main troop line, noble troop line, Caravan Guards and Militia. But wait, there's something odd about the Imperial main troop tree, isn't there? That's correct, they only have 14 units in their main line, compared to other factions' 15. Why that is, I have no idea. But go on and take out a unit from all the other factions' trees, and it's sure going to mess some stuff up. Please be aware that with the fine jobs that the devs are doing with the balancing etc, renders bits and pieces of my previous videos outdated with every patch. Even as the beta 1.3.0 hit the other day, I had to go over bits and pieces on this project to make sure they're up to date with the patch. But don't worry, all the faction videos will be remade with up to date balancing with time. I'm not sure when, as I have ideas for other guides and other bits and bobs, and I would like to work on them as well. Also a little tip when you play as a pure Imperial army. Try to keep Imperial prisoners from battling other Imperial factions such as Southern, Western and Northern empires along with Imperial minor factions, and use them as fresh recruits to replenish your losses after battles. After a couple of such battles you should have something better to pick than recruits from amongst your prisoners. I guess you could always do the same if you're playing other factions such as Vlandia, but it sure makes it easier if there are more than one major factions with the same culture as yours. Like the last time, please comment on which faction you'd like to see next and slap the like button if you like the content and dislike if you don't. And please do consider subscribing. Having said all that, let's move on to the sweet stuff, that is the pros and cons. A lot of people say that Imperials are the jack of all trades but master of none with a high durability. And there's some truth to it, especially when it comes to the ranged tree, but their infantry isn't anything special to be honest, but still durable as hell. Speaking of infantry, they lack anti-cavalry options below tier 4, and your best option before you get there are archers or tier 3 trained infantry with their javelins. Even then, it's their Menvalian shock troops that fare way better at anti-cavalry shenanigans compared to regular infantry, since their tier 4 are armed with a nice long western spear at 198 length, but tier 5 legionnaires come with an unthrowable pila at 114 length, which will get them couched before they stab any horse. They have excellent ranged options, with archers that can split off into crossbowmen that had their stats rebalanced in the latest patch, making them more viable than ever, and to top it off, their tier 5 crossbowman comes with a shield making them better in the melee, something the Palatine Guard cannot say. And if you want something more agile on the battlefield, they also have the Bucellarii ranged cavalry. They are the masters of durability. Their top tier units are the best armored compared to all the others. In my previous faction unit guides, it was rare to see a tier 5 unit to reach an armor rating of 2.5, and never mind seeing anything above 3, while all the Imperial tier 5 units armor ratings range from 2.81 to 3.22, and some of them come with a shield to top it off, and you must admit their top tier armor looks pretty neat. Even though their infantry is very durable, it's pretty purposeless and devoid of any direction they're heading in. Their tier 1 and 2 are just regular infantry, making a change into skirmish infantry at tier 3, then losing their javelins and turning into well-rounded spear infantry at tier 4, just to have their pole shortened almost by a half at tier 5, making them good at only being infantry with extra flavors here and there, although I do admit that their tier 4 is a very decent spearman. It almost feels like the devs want us to taste the changes that occurred in the Roman infantry equipment over centuries compressed into a single afternoon. Their shock troops are a force to be reckoned with, and well capable on the battlefield, armed with the deadly Menvalian. Their armor is unmatched by any faction, and in large formations they can wreak havoc on the enemy infantry lines. Even though they have the Bucellarii and Cataphracts, they lack somewhat readily available cavalry in their main tree, making it really expensive to hold large formations of Cataphracts and even harder to get your hand on them early game. Their noble troop line is pretty good and well equipped and armored. In fact, the elite Cataphract comes with unarguably the best armor in the game. However, their noble line is more expensive than that of Vlandia, since you have to invest an extra horse into it, as a Vigla recruit starts out on foot compared to an already mounted Vlandian squire. Having just one skirmishing unit shows that Empire lacks that extra oomph before the melee engagement, but they do have plenty of ranged options to substitute for that while your infantry holds a solid shield wall. That's my take on the Imperial pros and cons. Now let's have a look at what toys they bring to the battlefield and how well they wield them. Their recruits, just like others, aren't anything special. Coming around with just a one-handed weapon, best thing to do is level these men up fighting looters. And like always in bigger battles, I recommend these men to block arrows with their bodies for your more expensive units. Infantrymen are better armored than the recruits, and they come with a shield for better protection. Their skill rating is still within the average and they can handle themselves well against bandits too. Just make sure they're not mounted. These trained infantrymen come with a nice average skill rating for their tier, and a pretty nice medium to medium high armor. What makes him stand out among his predecessors though are his throwable javelins, making him the only unit in the Imperial main troop line that can skirmish, as after leveling up, he loses his javelins in favor of a spear. Veteran infantrymen are heavily armored, surpassing the likes of Landian swordmen and even champions with their armor rating. They come equipped with a great spear with a length of 194. They still have a nice average skill rating for their tier. In general, they're a great frontline infantry unit and they're your most reliable anti-cavalry force. Legionaries are the most durable frontline infantry you'll ever find, which is pretty funny considering they wear an ice cream cone for a helmet. They can definitely take a couple of hits, but be careful when facing cavalry with these top dogs, as their spear is only a unthrowable pila with a bleak length of 114, which is a great degrade from the veteran infantryman. This only begs for you to keep a couple of Menvalian or vet infantrymen along with them. If you like to carry around shock troops with you though, the originally named Menvalian are your go-to. Coming equipped with the Menvalian, they can mow down enemies like grass and act as a great shield breaker. And like always, just take good care of them as their lack of shields leaves them prone to enemy ranged units. If you've chosen to go the shock troop path, you'll eventually get the elite Menvalian. If you want units that can mow grass even better and faster, he's your go-to. He can also take more punishment than most. If you're ever looking for these men on the battlefield, just search for his ludicrous bronze helmet. Archers aren't well armored, in fact I've seen looters with better armor than them. With their 27 arrows they should do well in smaller battles, however when worse comes to worse and they run out, they won't make it far in the melee, as the enemy blades will go through them like butter. Trained archers have gotten some training with the local militias and managed to pick up some better armor too. However, they now come with a mere 20 arrows. You'll need to position them strategically during sieges and bigger battles to make the most of their low arrow count. I noticed that funny theme with Imperial Army helmets. This time we have a man with a literal dick head for his helmet. His range equipment doesn't differ from his predecessors, but his experience gives him more lethality on the battlefield and earned him better armor. Palatine Guard are absolute veterans and on average the best armoured unmounted units in the Empire. That is unless you dismount the Cataphracts, which have armor rating higher by 0.01. Their bow isn't any better since tier 3, but their arrows sure are, with a small increase to their stack too. Even though they lack a shield, they can still hold their own in the melee due to their unbelievable armor. Fusiliarii come with great armor. Even though their armor rating is a little bit lower than that of the Palatine Guard, they're still pretty beastly. You probably wouldn't be able to outnumber the Crusade ranged cav with them, but it'll definitely give you an edge over your enemies that don't use ranged cav themselves. On top of it, they come with 2 stacks of arrows and actually a better bow than the Palatine Guard, though be wary as they do require a warhorse for upgrading. Imperial Crossbowman is one of the latest winners of the major patch. He's pretty well armoured and like the veteran and trained archers he carries 20 bolts, so opting in for Crossbowman doesn't decrease your ammo count. Sergeant Crossbowman is another winner of the latest patch, coming with great armor and still only 20 bolts. However, when worse comes to worse, they learned from their Vlandian rivals to carry a shield on them at all times. This makes them considerably more durable and effective in the melee when worse comes to worse, as battles and sieges last too long. Vigla recruits are actually well armored with their medium armor, especially for a tier 2 unit, which is something unseen. Even Sturgeon Warrior Sons and Vlandian Squires have armor more comparable to recruits. They come equipped for both close quarters and anti-cav shenanigans. All this definitely makes it easier to keep them alive before you put them on a horse. Equitae are your first shock cavalry experience with the Empire. Even though they're a tier 3 unit, they already rock that heavy armor. Being mounted on a lightly armored Midlands Palfrey doesn't make his horse as durable as himself though, but at least it allows him to continue the battle on foot after he's been dismounted. Heavy Horseman is literally a heavy horseman, and the first Imperial unit to qualify for what I consider elite status due to their polearm skills surpassing 130. However, to have this guy in your party, you're going to have to spare a warhorse to mount this guy on an Imperial Charger with a hefty 60 armor barding. Cataphracts are armored better than any footman in the Imperial Army, wielding a massive 225 length pole that can split a man into 2 with a single thrust. Killing these behemoths is definitely a challenge, however they're not immortal, and one hit from a Banner Knight with a couched lance will end this man's career in an instant. Elite Cataphracts are elite for a reason. They get a great increase to their stats, bringing their average to 7.33. They are the heaviest armored units in the game. They come with the same equipment as regular Cataphracts. Although it comes with a trade-off for speed, being more durable is definitely worth it. Caravan Masters are a bit of a mishmash when it comes to their armors. However, they are just a simple infantry unit lacking a shield, which doesn't ensure their longevity. They hold up their average skill rating pretty well, but lack of a shield at tier 5 is a bit of a problem for sure, and he continues the imperial legacy of wearing odd headgears. Armed traders are oddly armed with longbows. They probably nicked from some unhappy Fian. They aren't well armored at all for a tier 3 unit, and their bow skill is abysmal. I would definitely send these guys on their way if they ask to join my party. Caravan Guards are the next elite unit outside of the noble line, however they do lack some solid armor compared to other tier 4 units in the imperial roster. Their polearm is pretty good and I always keep these around whenever I can, just keep in mind they won't last you as long as the Cataphracts. Veteran Caravan Guards surprisingly drop in their armor value, but I'm willing to forgive them because their armor is a pleasure for my eye. They get better equipment and maintain their elite status. His stats are better than that of the Cataphract and fall short of the elite Cataphract. You can call them a glass cannon, but if you want a large imperial cavalry, you are better off keeping these in your party. Militia archers may have armor of a looter but the skill rating of a tier 3. Even though they're not spectacular in the melee, they come with 2 sets of arrows which cannot be set for archers from their main tree, except for the Bucellarii. 1 to 2 arrows will probably knock these guys off the walls during a siege, so make sure to grab their body to block the gate. These guys defended the walls from many sieges. Their armor gets better but not by much. With better bows and weapons they sure are more dangerous, but still pretty easy to kill. Their skill rating on the other hand makes them elite, but what of the elite status if you get one tapped by looters that manage to hit you with a rock? Militia spearmen are nothing more than the unwashed masses readying to protect their city, poorly armored and equipped. However, from all the pub brawling they do, they're pretty well skilled for a tier 2 unit. These veterans know their way around the walls, however not armored that much better, especially for a tier 4 unit. Their skill however is pretty good, earning them the elite status, and their average skill rating is above a tier 5 average, making him a decent glass cannon. And this about wraps it all up. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new about the Imperial Army, but that's just my take on it. As always, spreadsheets are in the description. Also thank you Kanda72 for the comment. Have a nice day and the best of luck on the fields of Coloradia.